Hi, good evening. This is my response for the week 3 discussion on behavior. For one of the first questions in the prompts that is asked to answer is how does understanding the context of behavior help with intervention or when it occurs? From my experience and based on the videos that we've acknowledged, I think the biggest thing is that if you're able to predict or realize what is triggering a child or a student or what is going to trigger a child or a student, it allows you to prevent it in a way that, first of all, doesn't single out the child, and second of all, it just makes it easier for the child to feel at home or safe in the classroom or in the school environment, or even just when they do happen to maybe get in trouble when they go see somebody else outside of the classroom. Those individuals are also aware of how to approach this child because I'm all for you should hold some students accountable for their actions and their behavior, especially if it's in a negative facet or an aggressive facet that should be addressed. But I think also understanding the very thin line between, students having a bad day or something's going on that's affecting them versus they generally just decided to do something wrong and need to face consequences, right? So if you have a child in the classroom who may be in the spectrum and, for instance, has a hearing sensitivity issue, and there's this child in the classroom who's also very loud and socially doesn't know when to pause and take time to not ask questions and is next to that individual, moving the child to help support the listening aspect of the child would be great. So away from that other child who's kind of loud, or providing certain aids to kind of support the lack of wanting to hear that other child, so that they don't feel anxious or upset, is very vital for them. So I think it's just the more you're able to cue in on predictive manners in which children can get upset or triggered in a certain type of behavior in your classroom, the easier it is to minimize it. And then I think another thing to think about is how there's certain mismatches. Sometimes it's even just the teacher alone. If the teacher is not willing to take the time to realize that what they're doing is not working for that specific child, it makes it difficult for the child to want to come back into that classroom because they feel like every single time they're just being pushed and triggered in a certain way or in that classroom alone. Taking into consideration how that child feels and what they're going through is vital for any type of behavior, positive or negative. Just becoming aware essentially just makes it easier to relate and communicate and create a trusting relationship with that student, so that when behavior does arise or doesn't arise, because sometimes it's the opposite, sometimes the child is just very quiet and usually they're not, being able to address these behaviors means knowing how the child usually behaves, what they might be going through, what might have triggered them, what can we do to not trigger that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.